Why were you attracted to the military always, or were you sort of put there?
No, I was put there, definitely, yeah. They tried to get me into the Navy first, at 13, and I got 8 out of 300 in mathematics. So that was considered not good for steering aircraft carriers. So I went to the Army.
And thereby hangs the tale of your military career.
Yes, but it started there. Then I left it after 4 years and emigrated to Canada. Wound up in Hollywood, which I loved.
Does it bother you now that, well, let me put this another way. Is it probably true that Hollywood was better in those days? It's not just an illusion, isn't it? Wasn't it more fun in the days of San Simeon and cleaner air, I suppose, and less pressure on the studios? Despite the evils of the old moguls, some people miss them, the old studio heads, in certain ways.
No, I think you're right. I think it was a totally different game. I mean, then it was very difficult to get started because there was no television, so you didn't get spotted.
Yeah.
You had to go there and be an extra and hope for the best. And when I was an extra, there were 22,000 of us scratching around for 800 jobs. So you can imagine the talent that never got a chance to open his mouth. But once you got started, then if you were lucky, very lucky, you got under contract to one of those studios. There were only 6 or 7. And then it was a progression of life and of a career. Now I think it's much easier to get started, but far harder to keep going. For that reason.
To sustain a career.
Yes, because we all have terrible flops. But then you had a chance of sliding over the flops.
Whereas now you can do 3 winners, 1 loser, and then that may be it.
That could be it, yeah.
I never tire of hearing about Errol Flynn. He's one of the most incredible characters. I don't know if anybody could play him, or he seems to be even bigger than the roles he played in real life.
He was terrific. He was a terrific human being. And I don't know who this idiot was who wrote a book saying he was a German spy or something. Total nonsense.
Oh, yeah, I think that's sort of self-destructive.
Well, he had been. And I think it was the London Times called me up. I was in India and asked me if I knew about this. I mean, this was after the book came out. And I said, well, you know, good God, especially if he had been a spy, the last person he would have told would have been me, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I can't believe, what were you going to spy on? Jack Warner's underwear or something?
How many tanks they had in the back lot, I suppose, or something. I really don't know what he would have access to there. He didn't...
He was a lovely fellow. He was a bit crazy, but I shared a house with him that it was a bit wild.
I should think. How did you handle certain delicate things that must have come up there with people visiting who weren't supposed to be there for various reasons?
Well, we had a signal. He had a camera, and it was always left at a certain angle on the table inside if certain rooms were busy.
Oh, really?
In the place.
This was his version of the tie on the doorknob.
But he was great. But he was apt to let you down. He enjoyed that. He enjoyed discomforting his friends. And I honestly believe that, I don't know if there is a record of this, I honestly believe that Errol and I introduced water skiing to California, maybe to the United States. I honestly believe this.
Really?
In 1936. And it was invented by a man called Darcy Rutherford in the south of France. And Flynn found a photograph of this man going along these boards. Before that, it was called planking. You stood on a thing like a door.
You did it on one solid piece.
Yeah, one piece.
Yeah.
And Flynn said, look, sport, we can do this. And so we had these skis made by the studio carpenter. Huge wooden ones, about that broad, very heavy, with a bit of leather there, and then a clamp and screws behind it. It was awful things. But they worked. We got up. And we whizzed about, and Flynn and I took them over to Catalina, and I was showing off. Flynn was driving the boat with my girlfriend in it. And I'm on the board behind. We went on Ronald Coleman's yacht and all this. And I was wearing a dinner jacket to make it look good, and a top hat. And they were all suitably impressed. And at the end of that, I got tired. I was hanging on this terrible thing. I said, go on, stop. And he headed out to sea. with my girlfriend and me at the back, but on this thing. I got more and more tired, and finally I just let it go. And he circled round, pulled in the rope, and I waited to be hauled up, and he said, I'm just taking Betty back to the boat for a cup of tea, he said. Left me out in the middle of the Pacific with these boards. It wasn't far. I had about a mile and a half to go to Coleman's yacht. Nice afternoon. I was flapping along with these things. And suddenly, beside me, yeah,
Finn?
a fin.
Had he
And
arranged that too?
Yeah, I think he had. He stayed with it the whole way. It was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Fortunately, most sharks don't attack.
That's right. That's right.
It's hard to remember that when you're... My rule, if I see a fin in the water, is to get into the nearest city. Immediately. That's the very first thing you should do. Yes, I saw one in Hawaii recently. I was from just a small one, but they look even bigger than they are when you see them. Well, you were not an overnight star then. It seems that somebody with your illustrious career, one always thinks the minute they clapped eyes on him, they must have said, this guy's a star.
No such luck. I acted away as an extra for quite a long time, and then was the usual progression. You got one line, and then 2 lines, and a small scene.
Would you tell the story about your appearance in the Jeanette MacDonald film? That must have been quite gratifying for you to get that break.
The only good thing about that story is that playing a fairly large part for the first time was a long, thin young man called Jimmy Stewart. And Jimmy Stewart, that was his first picture. And I was cast to play a stage door Johnny, a drunk, with a top hat on. And I had to wait in MacDonald's dressing room. And when she came back from singing, I had to make some drunken pass at her and be thrown out. So I was behind the screen with a hat on. And I was very bad. I did the best I could. And Woody Van Dyke was the director, and at 11 o'clock, I'd done it. He said, fine, it's okay, you've done it. So I left the studio. And they sent me 2 tickets for the opening. So I went, I took a girlfriend, and she said, what do you do? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm behind the screen anyway with a hat on, and I attacked McDonald, and after that, that's all. I don't know what the story's about. So we waited. And it was quite evident that MacDonald had finished her aria and was heading for the dressing room. So I said, now here it comes, this is me. And over the hat. And a total stranger walked out and played my part. But apparently I've been so bad, they got somebody else in the afternoon. I know.
But they had the decency to send you 2 tickets for the... What a shock. Oh,
Terrible.
that's terrible.